There are mornings that arrive like any other morning, quiet, ordinary, and unnoticed. And then there are mornings that carry a whisper from heaven, mornings that step into our lives not with noise but with purpose. The mornings of March 13th and 14th are not just dates on a calendar. They are sacred invitations, invitations to rise before the world wakes, before the rush of worries and responsibilities begins, and before doubt has a chance to speak. For in the stillness of the morning, something powerful happens. The heart opens wider, the mind listens deeper, and the soul remembers that it was never meant to walk this journey alone. Many of us have walked long roads, roads of waiting, roads of wondering, roads where prayers seemed to echo without reply. We have carried dreams that felt too heavy and hopes that sometimes trembled under the weight of disappointment. Yet even in those quiet struggles, something inside us kept whispering, "Do not give up. Your breakthrough is closer than you think." Morning prayer is not merely words spoken into the air. It is a doorway. It is the moment when faith rises before fear has a chance to speak. It is the sacred pause where the ordinary human heart meets extraordinary divine power. And sometimes, all that stands between where we are and where we are meant to be is one final step of faith. Not a giant leap, not a perfect performance, just one sincere moment of surrender in the quiet of the morning. These mornings are about that step, because breakthroughs rarely arrive with thunder. More often they come quietly, like the first light touching the horizon after a long night. They come when a tired soul decides to pray one more time, when a weary heart whispers, "God, I'm still here." So as we gather in the spirit of these mornings, let us come not as people who have everything figured out, but as people who believe that prayer can move mountains, soften hardened paths, and open doors no human hand could unlock. For March 13th and 14th are not simply mornings. They are moments of transformation, moments where faith stands up, lifts its head, and declares something is about to change. And when prayer rises with sincerity and faith rises with courage, the impossible begins to tremble. Because sometimes the final step before your breakthrough is simply kneeling down in the morning and praying. There is something sacred about the morning before the world begins to speak, before the engines start, before the doors slam, before the noise of responsibilities and expectations presses against the heart. In that quiet hour, when the sky is still deciding what color it will wear, the soul remembers who it truly is. Early morning prayer is not simply a habit of the faithful. It is a meeting between the human spirit and the whisper of eternity. It is the moment when a weary heart rises from sleep and dares to believe that today may carry the answer that yesterday could not give. Long before the sun stretches its golden arms across the horizon, there are people who rise, not because life is easy, but because hope is stronger than their exhaustion. They rise with eyes still heavy and voices still soft, yet inside them burns a quiet determination. I will seek God before I seek the world. For the morning carries a mystery that the night cannot hold. The morning is a promise dressed in light. It is heaven's way of reminding us that darkness never gets the final word. When we kneel in the early morning, we do not kneel as perfect people. We kneel as people who have walked through storms. People who have cried silent tears on pillows that could not answer back. People who have wondered whether their prayers were drifting upward or disappearing into the quiet air. But prayer in the morning is not about perfection. It is about presence. It is about showing up before the day begins and saying, "Here I am, Lord. I may be tired, I may be uncertain, but I am here." And heaven hears that kind of honesty. There is power in that moment when the first word of the day is not complaint, not worry, not fear, but prayer. Because when prayer rises first, it rearranges the atmosphere of the entire day. Worry may knock at the door, but prayer has already taken its seat at the table. Fear may whisper its familiar lies, but prayer has already spoken truth into the heart. Doubt may try to stand tall, but prayer has already lifted the spirit higher. The early morning hour has been treasured by seekers and dreamers for generations. It is the hour when distractions are few and sincerity is abundant. In that quiet time, the soul is not competing with the noise of the world. The heart can breathe, the mind can listen. And when we listen in the morning, we begin to hear the gentle reminders that life often hides from us during busy days. We hear that we are stronger than yesterday's disappointment. We hear that hope has not abandoned us. We hear that the path ahead may still hold miracles. Morning prayer does something extraordinary. It places the day into hands greater than our own. Instead of carrying every burden alone, we release them into divine care. And when that happens, something inside us shifts. The shoulders that carried invisible weights begin to loosen. The heart that felt crowded with fear finds space again. The mind that was tangled with worry becomes clear enough to see possibility. Morning prayer does not erase every challenge, but it changes the way we face them. It gives courage where there was hesitation. It gives calm where there was chaos. It gives faith where there was uncertainty. There are people who will tell you that power belongs to those who move the fastest, speak the loudest, and chase success with restless urgency. But the wisdom of the soul teaches something different. True power often belongs to those who pause long enough to pray, those who pause long enough to listen, those who pause long enough to remember that strength does not come only from effort, but from connection with something greater than ourselves. The early morning is a sacred pause placed gently at the beginning of every day, and in that pause we are invited to choose what kind of day we will live. Will we rush forward carrying yesterday's fears, or will we rise slowly, breathe deeply, and invite divine guidance into every step? Morning prayer reminds us that we are not merely survivors of circumstance. We are partners with divine purpose. It reminds us that every sunrise is a fresh page, and every prayer is a pen writing hope across the horizon of our lives. Some people think prayer must be long and eloquent to be heard. They believe it must carry polished words and perfect phrases, but the truth is far more beautiful. Sometimes the most powerful morning prayer is only a few honest words. Thank you for another day. Give me strength. Guide my steps. Those simple whispers carry the weight of trust. And trust is a language heaven understands clearly. There are mornings when prayer flows easily, when gratitude rises like music and faith feels bright as the sunrise. But there are also mornings when prayer feels heavy, when words move slowly and hope seems fragile. Those are the mornings that matter most, because when we pray despite the heaviness, we declare something powerful. That faith is not built only in joyful moments, but in determined ones. Faith is built when we pray, even when we feel uncertain. Faith is built when we kneel, even when we feel weak. Faith is built when we whisper hope into a morning that has not yet revealed its blessings. And slowly, gently, quietly, prayer begins to work within us. It begins to shape our thoughts. It begins to steady our emotions. It begins to strengthen the invisible roots of courage growing inside our heart. We may not notice the change immediately, just as a seed planted in the soil does not become a tree overnight. But day by day, prayer is doing its sacred work beneath the surface. It is planting patience where frustration once lived. It is planting wisdom where confusion once stood. It is planting peace where worry once shouted. The power of early morning prayer is not always dramatic. It is often quiet and steady, like the sunrise itself. The sun does not shout when it rises. It simply appears, faithful and bright, until darkness has no choice but to step aside. Prayer works in much the same way. Each morning we pray, we invite light into the corners of our lives that once held shadows. Each morning we pray, we remind our hearts that despair is temporary, but hope is enduring. And something remarkable begins to happen. The person who once woke up anxious begins to wake up expectant. The person who once carried fear begins to carry faith. The person who once doubted their path begins to walk forward with quiet confidence. Morning prayer does not just change our day. Over time, it changes our spirit. It shapes the way we see the world. It strengthens the way we respond to challenges. It deepens the way we understand purpose. Because when a person begins their day in prayer, they do not walk alone into the hours ahead. They walk accompanied by grace. They walk surrounded by unseen support. They walk with a strength that cannot be measured by human standards. And so the morning becomes more than a beginning. It becomes a declaration that fear will not lead the day, a declaration that faith will have the first word, a declaration that no matter what yesterday held, today belongs to possibility. The quiet morning hour may seem small in the eyes of the busy world, but heaven sees it differently. Heaven sees the person who wakes early and whispers a prayer as someone planting seeds of transformation. Seeds that will grow into courage. Seeds that will grow into wisdom. Seeds that will grow into breakthroughs waiting patiently on the horizon. For when the day finally unfolds, with its challenges, surprises, victories, and lessons, the one who began in prayer stands differently. They stand steadier. They stand calmer. They stand stronger because before the world began asking anything of them, they had already placed their trust in the one who holds the whole day in divine hands. And that, dear heart, is the quiet miracle of early morning prayer. It changes not only the morning, but the soul that dares to rise and greet the dawn with faith. Faith is a curious and stubborn thing. It is born in the heart like a fragile flame, trembling in the winds of doubt, yet refusing to go out. It is the quiet voice that says, hold on even when you cannot see the way. Faith often arrives long before the victory, long before the doors swing open and the sunlight floods the room. It is the invisible bridge we walk on when the ground beneath our feet feels uncertain. Before any breakthrough, before the applause of the world or the visible reward of effort, there is faith. Faith that presses on when every instinct tells you to stop. Faith that whispers in the dead of night when all around you is silent. Keep going, even if it's just a step, even if it's just a prayer. Faith is the seed that refuses to die, the stubborn root that digs deep beneath the cracks of despair, searching for the nourishment of hope. Many of us have known the ache of waiting, the waiting that stretches long into nights that feel colder than they have any right to be, the waiting that tests patience, that mocks effort, that shakes confidence. And in those hours, faith becomes a lifeline that asks nothing of us except to believe, to hope, to hold on. Without faith, the struggle can feel meaningless. Without faith, the journey can seem endless, but with faith, the journey is sacred. Faith before the breakthrough is not always bright. It is not always sure. Sometimes it is a quiet clinging, a whisper in the dark that says, I do not see the whole picture, but I trust the unseen hand that guides it. It is the soldier who keeps marching when the battle is far from over. It is the parent who keeps loving when the child is lost. It is the dreamer who keeps dreaming when the night is long. Faith does not promise comfort. It promises persistence. It does not promise certainty. It promises presence. Breakthroughs are rarely immediate. They are rarely sudden. They often come after the soul has been tested, after hope has been stretched thin, after despair has tried to convince the heart that the waiting is in vain. And in that sacred tension, faith grows stronger. Faith before the breakthrough is forged in the fires of endurance. It is strengthened by the trials that seek to undo it. It is polished by the tears and the sweat of persistent belief. Consider those who have achieved what once seemed impossible. Their lives were not absent of doubt. Their nights were not absent of tears. Their roads were not absent of obstacles. What set them apart was faith. Faith that spoke louder than fear, faith that held on longer than despair, faith that refused to let the visible determine the possible. Faith before the breakthrough is the quiet force that carries us when every other force has abandoned the fight. Faith demands patience, a patience that does not idle but moves forward in small, deliberate steps. It is not passive. It is active and alive. It pushes, it strives, it prays. Faith may wait, but it does so with intention. It is the farmer who plants the seeds, knowing the harvest is months away. It is the artist who keeps painting, believing that one stroke at a time builds the masterpiece. Faith before the breakthrough requires this patience. It requires trust in the timing of the unseen. Often faith is challenged most when the breakthrough feels closest yet impossibly far. When every door has seemed to close, when every path seems blocked, when the heart aches with longing, this is the moment faith becomes more than a word. It becomes a lifeline, a fierce companion, a quiet roar in the soul that refuses to be silenced. Faith before the breakthrough does not promise ease, but it promises endurance. It does not promise immediate reward, but it promises alignment with destiny. We must understand that faith is not blind, it is not naive, it is not wishful thinking. Faith is the clear-eyed acknowledgement of struggle paired with the deep conviction that the struggle is not in vain. It sees obstacles yet chooses to trust the hand that can move mountains. It feels doubt yet chooses to speak hope. It encounters failure yet chooses to rise again. Faith before the breakthrough knows the storm exists, yet it does not lose its resolve. Prayer often walks hand in hand with faith. In the quiet moments when the soul feels heavy, prayer becomes the voice of faith, articulating the hopes that words cannot fully capture. Prayer carries faith into action, transforming a belief into a dialogue with the divine. And through prayer, faith is renewed, strengthened, and emboldened to persist. Faith before the breakthrough is often the prayer that refuses to be silent, the plea that rises even when it seems unheard, the whisper that insists, "I believe even if I cannot yet see." The beauty of faith is that it works in unseen ways. It aligns circumstances, it shapes hearts, it softens paths, and it opens doors we cannot yet imagine. Even when the breakthrough has not yet arrived, faith is at work, preparing, molding, and guiding. Like water carving through rock over centuries, faith wears away obstacles silently, persistently, inevitably. Those who have tasted the sweetness of breakthrough know this truth. The breakthrough is sweeter because of the faith that preceded it. The victory is richer because of the struggle that required belief. The freedom is deeper because the heart was faithful in waiting. Faith before the breakthrough is not an optional prelude. It is the very foundation. Without it, the triumph feels hollow, the success feels fleeting. With it, every victory is sanctified, every achievement becomes testimony, every life transformed becomes a beacon of hope for others. Do not despise the waiting. Do not resent the struggle. Do not underestimate the power of faith held steadfast in the dark. For the breakthrough that changes everything often comes in a moment when faith has been tested to the core. And in that moment, all that persistence, all that hope, all that belief comes together to create a reality that once lived only in the imagination of the heart. Faith before the breakthrough is the quiet courage that whispers, "I will not give up. I will not surrender. I will rise and I will endure, and I will believe until the day my miracle walks through the door." It is the fire that refuses to be extinguished, the drumbeat that refuses to stop, the steady pulse of hope in the chest of the weary. So, when the night feels endless and the dawn seems far away, remember this: your breakthrough is not dependent on what you see. It is dependent on what you believe. Faith before the breakthrough is the hand that holds the promise, the heart that carries hope, the spirit that refuses to let go until the change arrives. Walk with faith even when the path is unclear. Pray with faith even when the answers are not visible. Stand with faith even when the world seems unkind. And one day when the breakthrough finally comes, and it will come, it will not merely be a change of circumstance. It will be a testament to the quiet, persistent, unwavering faith that carried you through the night and into the light. Faith before the breakthrough is more than a moment. It is a lifetime of quiet courage, a symphony of hope, a testament that the soul can endure beyond reason, beyond fear, beyond the visible. And in that enduring faith, the impossible begins to bow, the doors begin to open, and the miracles begin to walk into your life. Because breakthroughs are not the absence of struggle, they are the presence of faith. And faith, my dear heart, is everything. Prayer is the sacred song of the human soul. It is the language that rises before words can fully explain the weight we carry, the hope we nurture, and the dreams we dare to speak into the universe. Prayer does not ask for perfection. Prayer does not demand eloquence. Prayer asks only for presence, for honesty, and for the willingness to open the heart fully to the divine. And it is through prayer that the bridge between struggle and victory is built, stone by stone, word by word, breath by breath. There are moments in life when the world feels heavy, when the mountains of responsibility seem too steep, and the rivers of challenge too wide. When the nights stretch longer than they should, and the days press with relentless urgency. In those moments, we often find ourselves wondering, how will I ever reach the other side? How will I ever move from this place of struggle into the land of victory? Prayer is the answer. Prayer is the bridge. Prayer is the unseen hand that reaches out to us when our own hands tremble with doubt. It is not always easy to pray when the heart is bruised, when the spirit is weary, when the eyes have wept and the soul aches, but it is in that very difficulty that prayer becomes most powerful. Prayer does not wait for ease. It begins in the middle of trial. It begins in the thick of struggle. And in that beginning, a bridge is formed, a bridge sturdy enough to carry the weight of our worries and strong enough to span the chasms of our fears. Think of prayer as the river that carries us when the waters of life rise too high. It is the rope that pulls us from the edge when we are tempted to give up. It is the light that flickers in the darkness when every other beacon has been extinguished. Prayer creates connection between what is and what could be, between the present struggle and the future victory that waits patiently on the other side. Victory is rarely immediate. It is rarely simple. It often comes clothed in patience, perseverance, and preparation. And prayer prepares us, not merely by asking for change, but by transforming us within. The struggle shapes us. The waiting molds us. The tears polish us like stones in a river. And prayer is the steady hand that guides us through this process, reminding us that our labor is not in vain, that our endurance is counted, that our faith is being strengthened. Many forget that prayer does not only ask, it listens. Prayer is a conversation, a sacred dialogue where the soul learns to hear the whispers of wisdom amidst the noise of worry. It is the moment when the mind stills enough to receive guidance. It is the pause that allows clarity to emerge from confusion. And when we listen as we pray, the bridge between struggle and victory becomes not only visible but walkable. Step by step, word by word, breath by breath, the path appears. Struggle is not a sign of failure. It is the proving ground of faith, and prayer is the map that guides us through it. There is no shortcut around the mountains, no bypass through the valleys, no escape from the storms. But prayer provides direction. Prayer provides hope. Prayer provides strength. When we lift our hearts in sincere petition, when we speak our fears and our hopes alike, when we open ourselves fully to the divine, we are given the courage to take the next step, and the next, each step bringing us closer to victory. Consider the many souls who have crossed from struggle into triumph. They did not arrive there without toil. They did not arrive there without tears. They did not arrive there without the nights of silent longing. But they did arrive there because they prayed. They prayed when the outcome seemed impossible. They prayed when the obstacles were insurmountable. They prayed when every voice around them said, "It cannot be done." And their prayers became the bridge, the quiet yet unbreakable passage from the valley of difficulty to the mountaintop of victory. Prayer transforms the inner life even as it invites external change. It shapes the way we see our struggles, reminding us that no difficulty is permanent, that no battle is lost before its time, that no night is so dark that it can extinguish the dawn. It teaches patience, resilience, and hope. It teaches that struggle is not the enemy, but the preparation ground. And it teaches that victory is not always immediate, but it is always certain when the heart remains steadfast in prayer. There is a sacred rhythm in the act of prayer. It is the rise and fall of the breath, the whisper of the lips, the beating of the heart. In that rhythm, we find alignment with the divine. We find the courage to face challenges we could not face alone. We find the perspective to see beyond temporary hardship. And we find the energy to persist when persistence seems impossible. Prayer, in this way, is the bridge that not only connects struggle to victory, but strengthens the traveler along the way. Many are tempted to think of prayer as a magical formula, as though victory would arrive instantly with a few words spoken. But the truth is far more profound. Prayer does not remove the struggle, it carries us through it. Prayer does not erase the obstacles, it equips us to overcome them. Prayer does not always answer in the way we desire, but it always answers in the way we need. And it is in those answers, sometimes subtle, sometimes unseen, that the bridge between struggle and victory is built. When we pray, we are also reminded that we are not alone. The bridge is never crossed by human strength alone. It is crossed by divine partnership. When we lift our hearts in prayer, we invite guidance, support, and grace into our lives. The impossible becomes possible because we are not walking by sight alone, but by faith. The weary find new energy because they are not carrying the burden alone. And the hesitant take courage because the unseen hand is steady beneath theirs, guiding each step across the span. Prayer teaches the language of trust. It asks us to release control while holding on to hope. It asks us to endure uncertainty while believing in certainty. It asks us to stand firm in weakness while walking towards strength. And as we practice this sacred act daily, we realize that struggle and victory are not opposites but partners. Struggle is the proving ground. Victory is the reward. Prayer is the bridge that connects them, and through it we grow into the people we were always meant to be. The bridge of prayer is also a bridge of transformation. It changes the way we perceive our lives. What once seemed like insurmountable difficulty becomes a challenge we can meet. What once seemed like hopeless waiting becomes a season of preparation. What once seemed like despair becomes a lesson in patience, resilience, and faith. Prayer reshapes our perspective, reshapes our hearts, and reshapes the very way we move through the world. Victory is sweeter, richer, and more enduring when it is reached through prayer, because the bridge we cross is not only external but internal. We do not merely conquer the circumstance, we grow into the soul capable of holding the victory with grace. Prayer ensures that our triumph is not hollow. It sanctifies the journey, it honors the struggle, and it transforms the human spirit into a vessel of strength, compassion, and wisdom. So let us not neglect the power of prayer. Let us not wait for the storms to pass before lifting our voices. Let us not discount the unseen hand that carries us across turbulent waters. For prayer is the bridge. It is the bridge between the valley and the mountaintop, between the night and the dawn, between struggle and victory. Step onto it with faith. Walk it with courage, speak it with honesty, and trust that every step taken in prayer brings you closer to the triumph that has been patiently waiting for you all along. Prayer is not a mere ritual. It is not a simple recitation. It is the lifeline, the guiding light, and the bridge that carries the soul from fear to hope, from doubt to assurance, from struggle to victory. And when we embrace it fully, when we allow it to shape our hearts and direct our steps, we discover that no obstacle is too great, no trial too deep, and no night too dark to stand between us and the promise of triumph. The bridge exists. It has been built by countless prayers, by countless hearts who refuse to give up. It is strong, steady, and enduring, and it awaits each of us who dares to take the step. Prayer as the bridge between struggle and victory is not just a spiritual truth. It is a lifeline, a path, and a promise that the human spirit, lifted by faith and guided by the divine, can cross any distance, overcome any challenge, and reach the place where victory awaits. And so, my dear heart, when the night presses heavy and the road seems long, Remember, the bridge is there. Prayer is the bridge. And on the other side, victory waits, quiet, steady, and ready to meet you. Persistence in prayer is the heartbeat of hope. It is the steadfast rhythm of the soul that refuses to be silenced by delay, disappointment, or doubt. It is the hand that reaches up again and again, even when the fingers grow tired, even when the heart feels weary, even when the answers seem hidden in clouds beyond our vision. Prayer in its truest form is not a single act of asking. It is a lifelong conversation, a continuous offering of the heart, a sacred discipline that shapes the soul into a vessel capable of receiving what is greater than itself. Many of us have experienced the frustration of unanswered prayers. We have called out in the quiet of the night, lifted our voices in the mornings, and offered our deepest pleas only to feel the silence echo back. And in that silence, the temptation to give up presses hard. The temptation whispers, perhaps your prayer does not matter. Perhaps the answer will never come. Perhaps it is time to stop. But persistence in prayer is not a surrender to despair. It is a quiet, courageous refusal to stop believing, a determination to continue speaking into the darkness until the dawn arrives. There is a power in returning to prayer again and again. There is a strength in the repetition of hope, a discipline that fortifies the heart. Persistence is not born from certainty that the answer will come immediately. It is born from the deep knowing that the act of praying itself transforms the one who prays. Each petition, each whisper, each tear, each word spoken in sincerity builds resilience, molds character, and deepens faith. Persistent prayer is not a demand placed upon the divine. It is a devotion that aligns the human will with the infinite. History and scripture are filled with voices that knew the power of persistent prayer. They knew what it meant to knock on the doors that seemed closed, to plead for guidance when every road appeared blocked, to call upon a name greater than their own when their strength ran dry. Their lives teach us that the miracle is often born not in the first prayer, but in the 100th. Not in the moment of immediate relief, but in the patient, unwavering commitment to keep coming, keep asking, keep trusting. Persistence in prayer is also a lesson in humility. It reminds us that we are not the source of our own deliverance. It teaches us that the timing of our desires does not always align with the wisdom of the universe. And it humbles us to the truth that our hearts may not always know the form that victory must take. Yet in this humility there is beauty, for it keeps the soul open, pliable, and ready to receive the blessings that often arrive in ways we could never imagine. The act of persistent prayer is a defiance against despair. It is a declaration that the human spirit will not be defeated by circumstances. It is a statement of faith that says, I may not see the answer yet, but I will continue to believe. I may not understand the path, but I will continue to walk in trust. I may not feel strong, but I will continue to lift my voice. Persistent prayer is an armor against hopelessness, a shield for the heart, and a lamp that lights the way through the darkness of waiting. There is also a rhythm to persistence in prayer. It is not hurried or frantic. It does not demand immediate results. It is steady, deliberate, and faithful. Like the rising of the sun each morning, like the slow but unstoppable flow of a river carving through stone, persistence moves with quiet, undeniable power. It teaches patience, it cultivates endurance, it strengthens the faith that will carry the soul across the trials and tribulations of life. And what of those mornings when the spirit is heavy and words are scarce? Persistence in prayer does not require eloquence or abundance of language. Sometimes the most profound prayers are the simplest. A single word repeated in the heart, help me. A short phrase whispered in the dark, I trust you. A silent cry offered from the depths of despair, I am here. These are the prayers that sustain the soul, that bridge the distance between struggle and triumph, that keep the heart open even when hope feels fragile. Persistent prayer also cultivates expectation. It teaches us to look for the unseen, to watch for the subtle signs of guidance, to recognize the answers that may not come in the form we anticipated. It trains the heart to be attentive, to notice the blessings that emerge quietly in the midst of ordinary days, to celebrate the small victories as proof that the divine is working. Persistence is not blind faith. It is faith that actively engages with life, that waits with courage, that watches with hope, and that continues to speak even when the road ahead is unclear. The greatest transformations often emerge not from a single moment of prayer, but from the accumulation of countless moments. Each prayer offered in persistence builds upon the last, weaving a tapestry of faith, hope, and courage. Over time, what once seemed impossible begins to shift. What once seemed out of reach begins to move closer. The heart, strengthened by consistent conversation with the divine, becomes capable of carrying the weight of the blessings that were always intended. Persistent prayer also teaches resilience in the face of resistance. Life will always present obstacles. Challenges will arise. Circumstances may seem insurmountable. But the soul that has learned to persist in prayer carries within it a quiet confidence, the assurance that no difficulty is beyond the reach of steadfast devotion. Persistent prayer is a training ground for patience, a school of courage, and a testament that faith does not falter when the storm rages. There is a mysterious power in the repetition of hope. To pray persistently is to refuse to let fear dictate the course of life. It is to choose belief over despair, courage over resignation, expectation over hopelessness. Persistent prayer is the declaration that the human spirit will continue to reach toward the heavens, even when the arms grow tired, even when the voice falters, even when the heart aches. It is the refusal to allow temporary setbacks to define the eternal possibilities of the soul. When we pray persistently, we also invite transformation within ourselves. Each act of prayer molds character. Each act of prayer strengthens faith. Each act of prayer aligns the heart with truth. Persistent prayer changes us even before it changes circumstances. It reshapes our thinking, steadies our emotions, clarifies our purpose, and deepens our connection with the divine. In this way, prayer is both a bridge and a tool, carrying us across the chasm of struggle while simultaneously strengthening our ability to embrace the victory that awaits. Persistence in prayer is not merely a spiritual discipline, it is an act of courage. It requires vulnerability, honesty, and the willingness to return to the sacred even when previous attempts felt unanswered. It is a refusal to let disappointment silence the voice of hope. It is a decision to trust the unseen, to speak to the invisible, to believe in what cannot yet be seen. Persistent prayer is a declaration of faith in action, a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, and a living proof that miracles are not only possible, they are inevitable for those who refuse to stop praying. The history of humanity is rich with those who persisted in prayer. They stood when others sat. They spoke when others were silent. They trusted when others doubted. And through their persistent devotion, lives were transformed, communities were healed, and generations were inspired. Persistence in prayer is a legacy, a thread that connects past, present, and future, weaving hope into the fabric of our shared human experience. Even when the answers seem delayed, even when the response is not immediate, even when the timing is uncertain, persistence in prayer assures us that the divine is at work. It reminds us that the unfolding of life is not always within our control, but that our persistence matters, our devotion counts, and our faith can move mountains even in ways we cannot see. Each prayer offered, each moment of hope expressed, each act of turning to the divine strengthens the bridge that carries us from struggle to triumph. Persistent prayer teaches us that hope is not a passive sentiment, but an active force. It teaches us that endurance is not merely survival, but a powerful witness. It teaches us that faith exercised consistently is a transformative agent. And it teaches us that those who continue to pray despite delay, despite difficulty, despite doubt, will one day encounter the breakthrough they have longed for, not by chance, but by the unwavering persistence of their devotion. And so, let us return each day, again and again, to the sacred conversation of prayer. Let us lift our hearts even when we are weary. Let us speak even when our words tremble. Let us believe even when the road ahead seems long. Let us persist, for the power of persistent prayer is not measured by speed, but by steadfastness, not by immediate results, but by enduring faith. Persistence in prayer is the heartbeat of miracles. It is the rhythm that carries the soul across trials. It is the bridge that links the struggle we endure to the victory we are destined to claim. And in that sacred persistence, we discover a truth that cannot be shaken. The heart that keeps praying, the spirit that keeps hoping, the soul that keeps reaching, will one day see the light of answers breaking through the clouds, will one day hear the song of triumph, and will one day walk the path from struggle into victory, transformed forever by the power of persistence in prayer. Transformation begins not with circumstances, but within. It begins in the quiet chambers of the heart, in the spaces where courage mingles with doubt, where hope wrestles with fear, where dreams stretch themselves toward the light of possibility. Preparing the heart for transformation is not a mere thought or a fleeting wish. It is a deliberate, soulful act. It is an inner awakening, a readiness to embrace change, a willingness to be shaped by the hands of the divine, even when the shaping is uncomfortable, even when it challenges every familiar notion of who we are. The heart is like fertile soil. It can nurture seeds of greatness, or it can be hardened by resistance and fear. The first step in preparing the heart for transformation is to till the soil. This means releasing the burdens, the resentments, the past mistakes, and the regrets that weigh it down. It means acknowledging the griefs that have whispered in the silence of lonely nights and choosing to lay them down, knowing that holding on to old wounds will choke the new growth that is eager to emerge. Preparation requires courage. It requires the bravery to look at oneself honestly, to see not only the beauty that already exists within, but also the shadows that must be faced. Transformation does not arrive with denial. It does not flourish in the soil of self-deception. It thrives in the honesty of the heart that says, I am not yet what I long to be, but I am willing to be shaped. This willingness to confront our own brokenness, to embrace humility, and to trust in the work of divine guidance is the foundation of all transformation. Prayer and reflection are vital tools in preparing the heart. Through prayer, we communicate with the forces greater than ourselves. Through reflection, we listen to the quiet whispers of our own soul. In these moments, the heart learns patience, resilience, and discernment. It begins to understand that transformation is not sudden like a flash of lightning, but gradual like the steady rise of the sun. Each act of prayer, each moment of stillness, each honest acknowledgement of our desires and fears gently reshapes the interior landscape, softening hardened places, opening closed doors, and inviting light to illuminate the corners that have been hidden in darkness. Transformation also demands release. The heart must release control, release expectations, release the illusion that we can orchestrate every outcome. There is freedom in surrender. There is liberation in trust. There is a profound peace that comes from laying down the burden of trying to force life into our timetable, and instead opening ourselves to the divine rhythm of unfolding. Preparing the heart for transformation means saying, I will do my part, I will strive, I will act, but I will also trust in the unseen hand that guides my life. The preparation of the heart is not without struggle. It requires enduring the tension between what is and what could be. It demands courage to embrace discomfort, to face uncertainty, and to move forward even when the path is not fully visible. Change often feels like a storm before it becomes the calm. Transformation often feels like loss before it becomes gain. And yet it is precisely in these moments of tension that the heart is being readied for the greatness that awaits. Transformation is also about alignment. It is about aligning our desires with our highest purpose, our actions with our values, and our thoughts with truth. The heart must be willing to let go of what does not serve its growth. It must be willing to release old patterns, outdated beliefs, and relationships that hinder its journey. Preparing the heart for transformation is an act of courage because it requires us to face the unfamiliar, to embrace the unknown, and to trust that the change will lead us into greater wholeness. Faith is inseparable from this preparation. The heart must believe that transformation is possible, even when the evidence seems scarce. Faith whispers when the world shouts doubt. Faith carries hope when despair tries to anchor us to old limitations. And faith, persistent and unwavering, becomes the foundation upon which the heart builds readiness for the next season of life. Preparing the heart for transformation is an act of faith that invites the unseen to meet us in our deepest longing. Gratitude is another essential companion in this preparation. The heart that acknowledges the blessings of the present is fertile ground for the blessings of the future. Gratitude shifts perspective, softens resistance, and opens the door to receptivity. It transforms fear into hope, scarcity into abundance, and waiting into patient anticipation. Preparing the heart for transformation means seeing the hand of the divine in every circumstance, recognizing that even in hardship there is wisdom, and even in struggle there is a lesson that shapes us into who we are meant to become. Transformation also requires vision. The heart must see beyond current limitations, beyond the familiar patterns, beyond the comfort of the known. It must dare to imagine what is possible, to hold a vision of life expanded and elevated. Preparing the heart for transformation is about planting the seeds of imagination, nurturing dreams, and refusing to allow fear or doubt to dictate the boundaries of what is achievable. Vision coupled with preparation creates a fertile field where the miraculous can take root. Patience is the quiet strength that sustains the heart during preparation. Transformation is rarely instantaneous. It unfolds in seasons, in small steps, in gradual awakenings. The heart must learn to wait without despair, to trust without seeing, and to nurture hope even in moments when the path forward is uncertain. Patience is the gentle teacher that reminds the soul that all things come in their appointed time, and that the heart's readiness is as crucial as the blessing itself. Self-compassion is also necessary. The heart cannot be prepared through harsh judgment, self-criticism, or shame. Transformation flourishes in the soil of kindness, in the warmth of acceptance, in the light of understanding. Preparing the heart means forgiving oneself for past missteps, embracing the imperfections that make us human, and allowing grace to permeate every corner of the soul. The heart that is gentle with itself becomes resilient, open, and receptive to the new life that transformation promises. Community and support also play a role in this preparation. The heart is not meant to journey alone. Sharing burdens, seeking counsel, and embracing the presence of those who encourage, challenge, and uplift us strengthens our readiness. Transformation is amplified when the heart is nurtured by connection, and persistence in prayer and reflection finds reinforcement in fellowship and shared faith. Preparing the heart includes recognizing the importance of relationships that build, rather than diminish, the capacity for change. Transformation is never only about the self, it is about the ripple effect of change that touches others. A heart prepared for transformation is a heart ready to give, to serve, to inspire. It recognizes that its growth contributes to the growth of those around it. Preparing the heart for transformation involves embracing responsibility not only for one's own evolution, but for the light we bring into the lives of others. A transformed heart carries compassion, empathy, and the courage to act in love. Preparing the heart for transformation is ultimately about openness. Openness to receive, openness to let go, openness to be reshaped. It is about cultivating a spirit that does not resist the new, that does not fear the unknown, that does not cling to the past. It is about saying, I am ready to be made new. I am ready to be stretched, to grow, to step into the life I am called to live. The heart that is prepared does not fight the process of transformation. It embraces it, trusts it, and moves in harmony with it. And when the heart is ready, transformation can occur in ways that surpass imagination. The burdens we carried become lessons, the wounds we bore become sources of strength, and the dreams we dared to hope for begin to manifest. Preparing the heart is not preparation for a small change. It is preparation for a profound metamorphosis, a rebirth that touches every aspect of life, aligning mind, body, and spirit with the greater purpose we were meant to fulfill. So, dear heart, do not rush this preparation. Do not skip the work of the inner life. Do not underestimate the power of a heart made ready. For transformation is sacred. It requires a vessel capable of receiving it, a soul prepared for its depth, and a spirit willing to embrace the unknown with courage and faith. Prepare your heart through prayer, reflection, surrender, patience, gratitude, and compassion. Prepare it through vision, openness, and community. Prepare it with intention, with love, and with the awareness that the heart is both the soil and the seedbed of every miraculous change that awaits. Transformation is coming. It is inevitable when the heart is ready, and when that moment arrives, the soul that has been prepared will recognize it, embrace it, and rise into the fullness of its destiny, shaped by faith, strengthened by struggle, and guided by the divine hand that has always been there, leading it from the familiar into the extraordinary. There comes a moment in every journey when the heart must lay down its own plans, when the mind must release its need for control, and when the soul must step quietly into the vast, uncharted territory of trust. This moment is not forced, it is not commanded. It arrives softly, often after long seasons of striving, after nights of questioning, after days of carrying burdens that feel heavier than the shoulders can bear. It is the final step before the breakthrough, the sacred act of surrender that opens the door to the extraordinary, the miraculous, the life that has been waiting patiently for us all along. Surrender is not weakness. It is not giving up. It is not the abandonment of hope. True surrender is strength clothed in humility, courage wrapped in trust, and faith that stretches beyond sight. It is the recognition that we are not the authors of every outcome, the rulers of every circumstance, or the bearers of every solution. It is the acknowledgement that there exists a power far greater than our understanding, a wisdom far deeper than our reasoning, and a love far more steadfast than our own. The final step of surrender asks us to release our grip on what we think should happen, on the timing we desire, on the way we imagine the breakthrough must arrive. It asks us to let go of expectations, to release control, to open our hands, hearts, and minds fully to the divine orchestration of life. Surrender is an act of trust, a declaration that says, I may not understand, I may not see, but I believe that what is meant for me will come. And it is in this act that the final step before the breakthrough is taken, a step that requires courage deeper than we often realize. Surrender begins with honesty. We must face our fears, our doubts, our anxieties, and lay them down in the presence of something greater. It is the acknowledgement that we cannot do it all alone, that our own strength has limits, and that the breakthrough we long for may require more than human effort. This honesty is not despair. It is liberation. It frees the heart from the burden of trying to force outcomes and opens the soul to the possibility of miracles. Persistence, prayer, and preparation, all the steps that have brought us to this point, culminate in surrender. We have prayed in the quiet of the morning. We have nurtured faith when it seemed impossible. We have bridged struggle with persistence. We have prepared our hearts with patience, vision, and openness. And now at the threshold of breakthrough, surrender asks us to release the last ounce of resistance, to trust the unseen, and to step forward with humility and expectation. To surrender is to walk in faith without needing to see every step. It is to move forward even when the path is shrouded in uncertainty, knowing that the one who has brought us this far will not abandon us now. The final step of surrender does not eliminate challenges, but it transforms the way we encounter them. It replaces anxiety with peace, fear with trust, and hesitation with courage. It shifts the burden from our shoulders to the hands of the divine, allowing the soul to rise lighter, freer, and ready to receive the blessing that has been waiting all along. Surrender is often resisted because it feels like relinquishing power. But true surrender is not surrendering to weakness, it is surrendering to strength greater than our own. It is the recognition that human effort, while necessary, is insufficient to bring about the fullness of our breakthrough. It is the quiet confidence that the divine knows the path, sees the outcome, and orchestrates every detail for our ultimate good. The heart that surrenders becomes a vessel of receptivity, open to receive the fullness of life in its intended perfection. Many resist surrender because it demands vulnerability. It asks us to expose the deepest longings, fears, and uncertainties of the heart. It requires trust that is unshakable, hope that is patient, and faith that does not waver. To surrender fully is to say, I release my need to control, my desire to dictate, my fear of the unknown. I place all that I am and all that I hope for into your hands. And when this declaration is made with sincerity, the heart experiences a profound shift, one that clears the way for the breakthrough that has been waiting quietly and patiently for our readiness. Surrender is also an act of alignment. It brings the heart, mind, and spirit into harmony with the divine will. It asks that we stop resisting the natural flow of life, stop struggling against what cannot be changed, and start cooperating with the unseen force that moves mountains and opens doors. In surrender, we discover that our desires are not opposed to the divine plan, but that our willingness to release attachment allows the plan to unfold in ways more beautiful than we could have imagined. The final step of surrender often comes after the long night of struggle, when every effort has been exhausted and hope seems faint. It is in that moment when the soul is ready to relinquish control that breakthrough is most often realized. Like a flower that opens fully to the sunlight only when the bud is ready, the breakthrough unfolds when the heart steps into surrender, trusting that timing, circumstances, and unseen wisdom are in perfect alignment. Surrender does not mean inactivity. It does not call for passivity. On the contrary, it is an active, conscious, courageous decision. It is the choice to continue moving, acting, praying, and hoping, but without the heavy clutch of anxiety or desperation. It is the practice of releasing outcomes while holding on to faith. It is the art of walking forward with confidence, even when the destination remains unseen. Surrender also requires patience. The heart that surrenders waits without despair. It trusts without seeing. It holds hope without demanding immediate results. Patience becomes the companion of surrender, teaching the soul that breakthrough is rarely rushed, that miracles often unfold in divine timing, and that the waiting itself is a sacred part of the journey. In this way, surrender and patience dance together, preparing the heart to receive that which has been destined all along. The act of surrender transforms the inner life. It shifts the focus from what is lacking to what is already present. It nurtures gratitude even amidst uncertainty. It fosters peace in the midst of chaos, and it strengthens faith in ways that persistence alone cannot. By surrendering, the heart is not weakened, it is fortified. It becomes resilient, open, and capable of embracing the fullness of the breakthrough that is ready to arrive. Surrender invites a profound intimacy with the divine. It allows us to experience a closeness that is not dependent on circumstances, achievements, or visible outcomes. The heart that surrenders learns to trust the invisible currents of grace, to feel the presence of wisdom guiding each step, and to rest in the assurance that nothing is beyond the reach of love. This intimacy deepens faith, strengthens hope, and prepares the soul to receive blessings that are greater than anything it could have imagined alone. There is a liberating beauty in surrender. It frees the heart from the tyranny of worry, the burden of trying to control outcomes, and the endless strain of self-reliance. When we surrender, We experience the peace that comes from knowing that the work we have done, the prayers we have spoken, and the faith we have nurtured are not in vain. Surrender is the gateway that allows the fullness of all our efforts to converge with the infinite wisdom that orchestrates miracles. The final step of surrender is a testament to courage. It is not easy to release control, to release attachment, and to trust without seeing. Yet the heart that dares to take this step finds itself transformed, elevated, and ready to receive. It is the step that turns struggle into victory, doubt into faith, and waiting into fulfillment. Through surrender, the heart becomes a vessel through which divine blessing flows freely, unimpeded by fear, resistance, or attachment. Surrender completes the spiritual journey that has been unfolding in prayer, persistence, faith, and preparation. It is the moment when all previous efforts coalesce into readiness. It is the hinge upon which the door to breakthrough swings open. It is the acknowledgement that we have done our part, and that now it is time to trust, to wait, and to receive. And when surrender is fully embraced, the impossible begins to shift. Walls that seemed unmovable begin to crumble. Paths that seemed blocked begin to open. Opportunities that were hidden become visible. The breakthrough arrives, not as a reward for human striving alone, but as the manifestation of trust, faith, and alignment with the divine. Surrender is the key that unlocks the final stage of transformation, allowing the miracle to step forward into our lives. So, my dear heart, let the final step be surrender. Release the need to control, release the weight of expectation, release the fear of the unknown. Step forward with faith, with hope, and with the deep assurance that the breakthrough you have been waiting for is already on its way. Trust the process, trust the timing, trust the hand that has guided you all along, and know that when the heart surrenders fully, the impossible begins to unfold, and life opens in ways more magnificent than words could ever capture. Surrender is not the end, it is the beginning, it is the threshold through which miracles walk, the gate through which destiny enters, and the sacred step that transforms longing into fulfillment, effort into ease, and waiting into victory. Take it, embrace it, live it, and let the breakthrough that has been waiting patiently meet you in the fullness of your surrender.